Before Sun and Moon may have predicted Nouvelette's true identity as the Hydro Dragon Sovereign, as well as introduced crucial lore about the foundation and history of Teyvat, but it also provides one of the largest mysteries in Genshin Impact to date. Just who is the Primordial One? Because, according to Before Sun and Moon, it may have been Phanes, or it could have been someone else. But who? Call me Kairos, and this is the truth of the Primordial Ones. Well, maybe. I'll let you decide. And yes, that's ones. Plural. To understand the nature of the Primordial One, we must first travel back in time over 3,273 years. But before we do so, let's first take a look at what we know so far. According to Before Sun and Moon, when the eternal throne of the heavens came, the world was made anew. Then the true Lord, the Primordial One, came forth and did battle against the 7 terrifying sovereigns, dragon lords of the old world. The Primordial One may have been Phanes. It had wings and a crown, and was birthed from an egg, androgynous in nature, but for the world to be created, the egg's shell had to be broken. However, Phanes, the Primordial One, used the eggshell to separate the universe and the microcosm of the world. 40 winters entombed the flames, and 40 summers churned the seas. The 7 sovereigns were vanquished, and the 7 nations submitted to the heavens. The Primordial One, the great sovereign, began the creation of heaven and earth for our sake, that of its creations which it cherished most, who would soon appear upon this earth. What we need to focus on here is the physical appearance of the Primordial One, born of an egg with wings and a crown, and then using that egg to create the realms of the world. In Orphic tradition, Phanes is indeed pictured with wings and a crown, yet often intertwined with a snake, which, if we take the biblical interpretation, could represent sin, or, in Genshin terminology, a broken or a Barosian cycle. For now, we're going to ignore the fact that, according to Wikipedia, Ether is also a primordial Orphic deity, and instead focus on the fact that Phanes' egg in Orphic literature, note that it's literature and not cosmology, we'll touch on that later, is not wholly self-existent. Instead, it is said that the egg from which Phanes was born was brought into existence by Kronos and Fate herself, otherwise known as Anage. Kronos, as you may very well know, is a manifestation of time itself, often known as Father Time, which really makes sense considering that nothing can happen without time. This does slightly warp Istaroth's identity as the god of time, but not in a way that alters the entirety of the lore. Kronos is known to be cyclical time, or rather the immovable time, that which keeps the clocks turning on and on. Istaroth, as we know, has the ability to manipulate time, from her assistance with the sacred Sakura to the creation of the Sin Shades, so really, if anything, she is more of the god of Kronos. However, there is nothing in Genshin yet that gives any information about Kronos as an entity, so we can, for now, think of time as a constant, and Istaroth, still as one of Phanes' shining shades, as the one who controls it. There are 2 other doctrines we must consider before we can affirm Phanes' identity, though, and those are Gnosticism and Hinduism. Genshin loves Gnosticism, so don't rush any connections quite yet. Furthermore, I'm not going to make any right now, as they detract from the focus of this video. You'll know what I mean when I get into it. In Gnosticism, unlike in Orphic tradition, Phanes is not any sort of creator, rather they are the created, an emanation of Barbelo, and Barbelo is known as the first emanation of God. Like Phanes, Barbelo is an androgynous figure who is everything. Barbelo has 3 emanations, somewhat akin to the 4 shining shades: Autogenes, the self-born one, Calyptos, the hidden one, and Protophanes, the first appearing one. For ease of understanding, autogenes is the notion of the soul, as according to Plato, which is roughly defined as a person's essence. Calyptos is the ability for the existence of Barbelo, and Protophanes is the first manifestation of Barbelo. If we take this word to mean a holy trinity, as it does in Christianity, then autogenes, Calyptos, and Protophanes could be read as the 3 hypostases of Gnosticism. for they are what comprise the essence of Barbelo. Now, let me be frank, I am completely unsure of how any of the foundation of Gnosticism fits into how we currently know Teyvat to be constructed. But I will say this. God apparently exists in Genshin Impact, or else we wouldn't have this.
Oh my god, I can't believe my eyes.
Say what you will, but if it's oh my gods in Percy Jackson, then what happened to oh my Archon? Considering that the only connection to Barbelo we have right now is the obvious Barbeloth, whose name is sometimes read as a corruption of Barbelo, I'm leaving Gnosticism here right now simply as food for thought, but nothing more. Personally, I just felt that it had to be mentioned, but I'm not taking it to be doctrine currently when deciphering the nature of Phanes. Much closer than Gnosticism to Orphic tradition, Hinduism can instead provide a little closer insight, and may just cement what we know. I say cement because if you played it, and you should play it, I'd even go as far as to say that you need to play it, Aranyaka is just a retelling of the Hindu Ramayana, and possibly betrays the entire plot of Genshin Impact, but that's for another video. Earlier, I mentioned that we would have to travel back in time over 3,273 years in order to understand Phanes, and here we are. The law code of Manu was written in 1250 BCE and begins with a creation myth that will sound all too familiar. There was this world, pitch dark, indiscernible, without distinguishing marks, unthinkable, incomprehensible, in a kind of deep sleep all over. Then the self-existent Lord appeared, the unmanifest manifesting this world, beginning with the elements, projecting his might, and dispelling the darkness. That one, who is beyond the range of senses, who cannot be grasped, who is subtle, unmanifest, and eternal, who contains all beings, and who transcends thought. It is he who shone forth on his own. The self-existent Lord, after fashioning the waters of Nara, fashioned himself an egg, and residing within that egg became Brahma, the grandfather of all the worlds. After residing in that egg for a full year, that Lord on his own split the egg in two, and from these halves he formed the sky and the earth, and between them the mid-space, the 8 directions, and the eternal place of the waters. It is said, too, that this self-existent Lord created time, divisions of time, and constellations, so take that information as you will. To offer my interpretation, the self-existent Lord not only manages time and its components, but also fate, for we know in Genshin that fate is contained within one's constellation. Although, how true can that really be if the sky is fake? With this information, let's say for now that there are 3 possible interpretations. Phanes was born to time and fate, Phanes is an emanation of a higher god, or Phanes is the sole creator of Teyvat. What makes most sense to me is the first, for the very definition of creation begets the existence of time, and of course, we know how important both time and fate are in Genshin. If you've noticed by now, which I'm sure you have, I have barely spoken on fate herself, Ananga, and here's why. I believe her and Phanes to be 2 sides of the same coin. So, time in Orphic mythos predated Phanes, but fate is a bit of a different story. You see, in Orphic tradition, there are 2 ideas, literature and cosmology. The literature I discussed earlier, but in Orphic cosmology, Phanes is the first god, the manifest creator born of an egg, the fashioning of which is attributed to Kronos. So where does Ananka fit into all of this? Well, the truth is I cannot make hide nor hair of it, simply because I keep seeing her name used exchangeably with that of Nyx, who's either Phanes' daughter or older wife, but more importantly, she is their counterpart. As Phanes is light, Nyx is darkness, and if there is one thing I can figure out about her, it is that she is a mother to many, many things, such as destiny, retribution, dreams, death, and fate. In fact, regardless of the question of whether or not her and Ananka are interchangeable, which I have my doubts about, Nyx herself is fate, or at least an executor of it, a being paralleled by light, a mother who resides, according to Orphic mythos, in the darkest recesses of the world, a proprietor of many which one may call sinful. There's only one entity in Genshin which matches this description almost perfectly. In fact, her very name decrees her true nature to be the Night Mother. Arguably the most important book in all of Genshin Impact, The Pale Princess and the Six Pygmies begins as such. In the distant past, the Night Mother ruled over the faraway land of night. Here no light touched the earth, nor did a single tree grow, and there was no life here but the horrendous denizens of the dark. The Night Mother was the source of all sins, and the land of night was the embodiment of her evilness. The cruel Night Mother, who had neither heart nor mouth, was always watching the land of night, and her punishments were always unexpected. Now, what being do we know who has neither heart nor mouth, who ordains the actions of those of the abyss, and appears as evil itself? The Sinner. Two primordial beings, alike in light and dark, one born with sin wound around them and the other the exactor of it, Phanes and Nyx, Teyvat and the abyss, the designer of the loom and the one who weaves it. If you like, you may call them the heavenly principles. But that's all for me, theory-wise, today. Sources will be linked in the description box below, so you may take up the journey into the realms of night and day and uncover the secrets of the heavens. But don't venture off just yet. I have one more thing I'd like to share with you.
Hola! That's what the hilly trolls say hello.
That's not all I wanted to say, but I hope that it got your attention. Hi there. Have you ever wanted a mysterious blonde-haired traveling companion to accompany you on your quests? Do you miss Dane every time he abruptly leaves after giving us less lore than questions every single interlude chapter? Me too, but that's beside the point. I'm releasing a limited quantity of 5 Dane's Live keychains, drawn by me, obviously, on my Etsy shop. If you, like me, are having Dane withdrawals, because they're very real, you can head over to my storefront at etsy.com/shop/KAEROIS, that's Kairos with an I, because somebody already took it without one, and bring him home, early and guaranteed. Your support would mean the world to me. With him, you'll be more prepared to journey onwards, dear traveler, so go forth. As always, thank you so much for listening, and you can call me Kairos.